Yeah. Yeah, so you'll see pictures and video you probably have never seen before. The case file was opened to 48 hours by the prosecutor in Alameda County, who has been prosecuting the last, I don't know, 15 years or so of parole hearings. There's only one person who's still in prison who was denied parole this week for the 17th time. He'll get an 18th try in 5 years. But we had a producer in the courtroom, and this producer has spent the last many months sort of working up a file on this guy who's still in prison, this Fred Woods guy, who was running a Christmas tree farm from prison. Now in California, that's not illegal. You can do that, but you have to ask for permission, and he didn't. And that was one of the reasons the prosecutor said, listen, this guy should not be granted parole. If he can't follow the rules in prison, he's not going to follow the rules out of prison. And the Christmas tree farm is only one of the businesses he's running from prison. Another one is a car business, and he's got a third business. You'll hear from Mike Marshall, the guy who actually worked with the bus driver to dig them out of this hole. You'll hear from Larry Park, who was so emotional and tearful in our interview. He shared the pictures with us that he has of when he got to meet one of the convicted captors, because he said for him that was a cathartic experience. That was a healing experience for him. Well, they're wealthy kids from San Francisco's suburbs, and their parents had money, but apparently they didn't have enough money to, let me try that again. So they're rich kids who come from wealthy families that lived in San Francisco's suburbs. And they came up with this idea that because they didn't have enough money, their parents did, but they felt like they should have had more, they were going to kidnap some kids and call in a ransom that they thought California would pay out. Because they were actually quoted as saying that kids are precious, so we should kidnap them and then we'll get the money we need. And I guess they thought they'd just live some happy life. But listen, their plan, albeit idiotically hatched, didn't even really last more than 24 hours. We explain, and we've got this video inside the 911 center, right, of all these calls coming in from frantic parents and media and people from around the world, right? You have to remember, at this time, the President of the United States was monitoring what was happening. Walter Cronkite was leading the CBS Evening News with the story. And so the kidnappers kidnap the kids, they bury them alive, then they go to call in the ransom, and you'll find out tomorrow night why they never even got a chance to give their demands. They live in San Francisco and they're following the rules. I don't think so. You'll see a draft of the ransom note. You'll hear from the prosecutor who opened the case file. You'll hear from 3 of the survivors. You'll hear from the sheriff. You'll see some of the pictures of the school bus as it was hidden in that agricultural field. It's a live to tell, right? One thing we did not want to do in this hour was interview any of the bad guys. We didn't want to put any of the criminals on television. This is a story for the survivors to tell what happened to them more than 40 years ago. Look, a lot of people in this country had not heard of this story, but many of them had. And for those who had and forgot most of the details, this will be a riveting hour to watch. Correct. She pulls out the gun that they had. She pulls it out. Listen, she went into the archives and she's holding in her hand the draft of the ransom note. She takes out the gun and she, what do you call that, chambers it, I guess. I'm definitely not a gun expert or a hunter. But she walks us through some of the evidence that easily convicted them. I mean, this was not a hard case to prove, so to speak, and it wasn't hard to find the guys. We were able to go into our archive and find reports that had been done by my colleagues way back in the day of when they searched the home of one of these suspects' father. And that's basically how it all came down, was they zeroed in very quickly on one suspect, and he was the one whose dad owned the rock quarry, and everything started to crumble from there. I don't know their reaction to it, but after they kidnapped them and after they buried them alive, they took a nap. Thank you, John.